Welcome to another episode of the Swords and Sports Podcast. One man's journey to read 52 fantasy books in 52 weeks and create 52 podcasts documenting the experience. I'm your host, Mike Mokes, and this week I'm joined by recurring guest, yes, she was on the show last year, Spiffbo 5 finalist Virginia McClain, to talk about her book, Traitor's Hope. The interview is coming up after all the book details, so just stick around. It's exciting because Virginia is releasing the third book in the Gensokai Chronicles Cyro's Claw, and let me tell you, she's not making it easy to say these title names, but coming out this week, so make sure you pick that up because it has an all-time cover that I'm obsessed with. So if you want the recap of all of the things that happened in book 1 and 2, go to a real source. If you want all the fun stuff, this is your source. If you would be so kind as to rate, like, and subscribe to this podcast on all your podcast listening platforms, one day I could stop begging you all and I could live my dream of getting Brandon Sanderson on here. Will that ever happen? It's seeming less and less likely every single day. But you know what? I haven't stopped reading books every week, so why stop trying? For all information on upcoming episodes, you can follow me. Follow me. How corny is that? On Twitter at Swords and Sports. If you're looking for clips of the show to see what some of the highlights are and what the show is about, you can always check out the Instagram. It's also at Swords and Sports. I'm posting about 1 to 2 clips weekly. Let's get right into these book details because I know everybody's dying for Virginia McClain. So let's do it. The book is Traitor's Hope. The author is Virginia McClain. The series is the Chronicles of Gensokai, and this is book 2. It was published on October 14, 2017. She did a re-release at some point in 2020 with some new fire covers that she designs herself. Yes, she has a design company, and she's great at it. The hardcover is 330 pages. The publisher is Artemis Dingo Productions, which is a self-published company based on her dog's name, Artemis, who is goddamn adorable. The books in the series are Spiffbo 5 finalists, Blade's Edge, Traitor's Hope, and Cyro's Claw, which I think she's entering in this year's Spiffbo competition. So keep your eyes open for that. As a quick heads up, per her, actually, she's the one who initially said this, almost a year ago. She's like, you gotta include spoiler warnings for the books, and we've been doing it ever since. So per her request, this podcast contains spoilers for the following books. I'm going to say Blade's Edge because since this is the second book in the series, it probably is spoilers for the first book. And Traitor's Hope. So if you haven't read those books yet, either have a great time listening to this podcast because, it's not like the most spoiler-heavy review, but there is definitely spoilers. Or go read the goddamn books and then listen to this. So without further ado, friends of the program, Virginia McClain. All right, another episode of the Swords and Sports Podcast. I invoked my recurring guest clause, and she's back. The Quaroncon Queen herself, Virginia McClain, here to talk about, look at the hoodie, look at the gear. Here
Merch.
To talk about Traitor's Hope and hopefully a whole bunch of other stuff. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Delighted to be here virtually.
Virtually. I mean, that's how life exists now.
It's true. Yeah. I don't even know. It's not even worth saying anymore. It's just so obvious.
It's gone on so long that you've run 2 virtual cons.
Yeah. That's how long this has been happening. I mean, luckily the first one was sort of right after we went into lockdown. So it hasn't been 2 years, but it has been over a year. So
yeah. Sure felt like 2 years.
It feels like 20.
Right. 111 people worked on Quaroncon.
Yeah, participated in it all, in terms of being on panels and stuff. Yeah, 111 people were involved in panels, readings, workshops, etc.
An absolute masterclass of organization. It was. I mean, did you sleep?
I did actually this year. Last year, not so much because I was designing a website from scratch and trying to figure out how to make an artist alley work. And I was just like, our artist alley is not that, it's not very fancy and it's not all that good looking. It's just functional. And this year I had high hopes to make it better. I was like, no. I just got my most recent book off to my editor the day before Quaroncon started. So I was just like, the website is what it is. We got new data entered. And the thing I was really thankful about was that most of the website runs off of data sets. And so if I just replace the data sets, everything flows into the nice design and I don't have to touch anything.
Okay.
So that saved a huge amount of time. So I'm very appreciative to past me for having set that up because that was way easier. Yeah. Because that was way easier to deal with. But yeah, so this year I actually did get some sleep. I had a real bad week about 1 week out before Quaroncon started where I was trying to finish the book. And a bunch of Quaroncon stuff needed organization and planning and stuff. And I had to just like step back, and poor Pam, who is always our scheduler extraordinaire, but she had to step in and do some of my job because I was just, I can't, I'm about to have a breakdown. I was actually like on the edge of an anxiety attack. But that's because a lot of other stuff was happening at the same time. So that was not good, but I took a few days away. I finished my book and sent it to my editor. I came back. And then, after my book was sent off, I was like, this is easy. I just have one thing to do.
Right. I mean, you are not one who shies away from trying to do it all.
I probably should, though. I'm not actually great at doing multiple projects like that. If I had it to do over again, in fact, if whatever we do with Quaroncon next year, I have vowed that I will not have anything else. Like no deadlines around that time. Not allowed.
You vow that now.
No, and I'm gonna keep doing it because otherwise I'm not doing it. I'm just handing it up to someone else because that was not okay for my mental health. But I mean, one thing at a time, it's okay. The problem is that, and I wrote a whole thread about this on Twitter yesterday or the day before. I'm not actually good at organizing things long term, like just like long term planning. I'm terrible at. But I can make something happen in a panic, which is why the first Quaroncon, people were like, wow, you got this together so fast. And I'm like, this is literally the only way I can plan anything is if you tell me that it's really hard and I have 2 weeks to do it. And then I spend every day in emergency mode and just, boom, something happens. And the end result was nice enough that people were like, oh yeah, we want to do that again. But the problem is with a year's lead time.
No. You can't work with that.
I didn't. And so like, luckily I have a lot of people, not a lot, actually. We had a very small group of volunteers this year, about half of the volunteers we had last year. Because some people were back to their full-time jobs, right? Like last year, it was full lockdown and nobody had anything to do. All over the world, people were just like, I don't know, I'm not working, like there were. So, it was a big shift this year. Even all of our volunteers who were with us were people who were just willing to do it all on top of their full-time jobs. Like, right. Back to work now in some form. And so, so this was just like the 10 of us who were like, well, we'll do it anyway. None of us really have time, but we'll just make it happen. And so I just delegated. I was just like, and I didn't even have that much to do because people were already delegated from the previous year, but I added in some new people and put them in places. And then it was just great. People who were actually good at long-term planning were like, hey, Virginia, it's about time we should do this. I'm like, yes, excellent point. Great. Let's do this and this and this.
Right.
Suddenly I look competent because I have competent people below me. Not even below me. I mean, that sounds, there's not really a hierarchy.
I get what you mean.
I put competent people in charge of things. People run stuff by me sometimes and I'm like, you're doing great. I
mean, you bring up a point and it is interesting because I also feel like I work that way. Like throw everything on at once and a tight deadline. I'm like, all right, like it's going to suck. But you're saying, like saying that you're not good at it. I mean, by mental health standards, maybe not so good, but by like performance standards, great. I mean, it was a huge success and you got your book off and By the way, when is that coming out for everybody?
May 7th, Cyro's
Buy
Claw.
it!
Buy it. Yeah. I like if you want later, I can screen share the cover and stuff. I don't have a physical book of it right now.
Let me tell you, that cover is awesome.
Aw, thanks. I like it. I like it a lot. And I'm glad other people like it because I did it myself.
Oh, I know. You've done a whole revamp of all the covers.
I did. I redid the whole series. And which I love. I love the ones I came up with, but I also still really love the originals. They weren't selling as much as I'd hoped.
Right.
To be honest, like the new covers are selling about the same amount. There are a certain number of people. Actually, I would say my ads are working better for them.
Okay.
The same number of people who just like would pick up the book because they would pick up the book seem to be picking it up. But in terms of like clicks from Amazon ads, those seem to be working better with the new covers.
Right.
So,
I mean, Virginia, like the colors pop better. You know, like they catch the eye a little more.
They do pop. I'm prepared this time. I've got. So,
right. I mean, look, we're here to plug everything you got.
Yeah. Yeah. So I do like the new ones. I love the original artwork by Juan Carlos, and part of me, like if I fall into some money in the next couple of months, wants to hire him to do cover art for the third one anyway, and then have just two full versions of the series. I mean, that would be expensive, but kind of worth it. I don't know. I love his artwork.
Hey, May 7th goes well. Maybe Juan Carlos.
Yeah, exactly. Like, come on, anybody who wants fancy hardcovers, pre-order the book. Tell all your friends. That's how we fund the extra fancy artwork. But it's interesting because Cyro's Claw seems to be way even more popular than like these two, which I love these two as well. But I did do Cyro's Claw first and then went back and made these to match it.
Interesting approach.
Well, so here's the thing. I wasn't planning to do my own covers for these. I do cover design. People pay me for it. But I have never done my own books because I always feel too close to the material.
Right. It
and
makes a lot of sense.
The couple times I've tried it, I almost always make a mock-up just so I have something to look at. But I almost always wind up putting too much effort into the details. You know, I just like stuff that doesn't matter. And I can't draw to save my life. So there's not, actually I'm getting better at drawing because I've actually.
I got some drawing questions, just so you know. I've seen what you've been posting.
The hilarious progression. But like I'm not good enough at drawing or illustrating to at all want to like try to do that for my own book covers. So it was always gonna be composites, and I just, I don't know, like I always felt more confident just hiring someone else to do it. And so the Victoria Marmot series is still the cover done by Natasha Snow, which I love. And this is the omnibus, the hardcover for all. This is all 5.
Oh my God. You got them all ready to go this time. I love it.
I was prepared. This is all through Quaroncon. I don't bring my books to any of the events because I'm like running this thing or I'm moderating.
Well, you're the queen. It's beneath you to.
But no,
I'm kidding.
It's the opposite of that. No, it's not my. You know, I'm there to shine a light on everyone else.
Right.
Like rah by my stuff, with the exception of like my one reading or whatever. But so I didn't have. But we encourage authors to have their books for their panels and stuff and hold them up.
Well, they should, right? I mean, this is what you got.
Yeah, but I didn't do that. But I was like, oh, this time it's actually about, it's supposed to be about me, so I'm gonna bring my books.
It is. That'd be me, like, holding up like my Twitter handle on like that's all I got, man.
But that's, it's a fun account. Everyone should follow that too while you're at it. Come on.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. That's called cross promotion. It wasn't at all, planned there. Would you say the update in covers has come from the collapse of the Artemis Dingo Productions company?
That is a great question. Artemis Dingo Productions is just me. I created I created a little mini label for myself. I have not incorporated, it's just an alternate name. You can, when you're ticking boxes on Amazon, you can put in a name of publisher and it can be anything you want. And
this is a big feature of my show, by the way. I love with all the self-published
Obscure.
naming their made-up publishing companies.
Yeah.
But I believe in Artemis Dingo Productions, and I think it needs a comeback because it's not featured on the new cover.
You're right, it's not, and I should probably fix that. Poor Artemis, which is my dog, by the way. And Artemis Dingo was a nickname. It's not even a nickname that I made up for my dog, but one of my friends calls my dog Artemis Dingo. And for some reason, I was like, that's a funny name for a production company. Anyway, yeah, it was just silly. I thought the logo for that is a vector graphic made from a picture of Artemis wearing a hat. And I felt like she was strongly channeling Artemis Dingo when she wearing that hat. So she's really living up to the nickname. Yeah, I don't know. I could do that. Part of me was just like, I should just own it, that this is all me, and I should just put my name on it. And
yeah, I see a lot of this on books 2, 3, and like some of the more recent self-pubs that like everybody thinks that they need to put some company down, but it's like, why? I mean, just own it. It's yours. You did it.
Yeah.
Well, Artemis did the first one, but
yeah, she did. She's really good at graphic design. Paul's in there. It's originally, I think I was still worried about the stigma of self-pub.
Right.
And so I created that production label to just try to like pass it off as something else. And then I think my attitude about that actually shifted pretty quickly afterwards, but then I'd already done it once, so I think I did it twice. But at any rate, and eventually I was like, this is silly. It's just me, and that's fine. I think it helped. A couple things helped. Getting a BookBub featured deal on Blade's Edge helped. Having Blade's Edge be a SPIFBO finalist helped.
Woohoo!
Those were all things that made me think, like, you know what? Maybe these books have enough legitimacy on their own that I can just be me and not pretend that I'm a tiny publishing house. So yeah, anyway,
maybe that's an idea. Maybe we make a fake small publishing company that self-pub authors can use, and it'll add some legitimacy.
Well, there are a lot of people who've done that and sort of created essentially like co-op publishing houses out of just multiple self-pub authors. And they call themselves or whatever, and they all publish together under that name.
So not even an original idea. You know what?
No, yeah,
they're not all winners. They're not all winners.
Well, and there's an argument to suggest that it works. They also there's a lot of group promo that goes through that too, so it can be
right. Makes sense.
Cool. But yeah, and I've got some people asking me if we want to turn Quaroncon into a small publishing house, and I'm like, maybe.
Wait till I have my next book due to go to the editor, and then I'm ready to put this together.
All right. Yeah. But we are going to publish. We're publishing an anthology with the 6 winning short stories, 3 from last year and 3 from this year.
Oh, that's exciting.
So Quaroncon will be becoming a small press very briefly to put that out. And so that's cool. And we're excited about that. But we've made it clear to the authors involved that we will be doing a royalty split, and we don't, we've got a cover designer, and we have professional editors as well. They're also Quaroncon volunteers. So we're going to have pro editing and a pro cover, and we will release it into the world and probably make dozens of dollars or $12 at least. Yeah, I don't, but it'll be fun. We'll see what happens. Hopefully, it'll be nice. People at least have a pro credit. It's not like we're an SFWA listed venue or anything, but yeah, it'll be neat. And I think everybody involved is stoked so far, so that'll be fun.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, that has to be one of the best takeaways from Quaroncon this year, right?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. That's a fun thing, and there was that, Quaroncon had a lot of good things going on this year. But I do seem to be I'm involved in 3 different anthologies now. There's the Quaroncon very small anthology with just 6 stories in it. And those are all stories that are around 2,000 words. Right. So that's going to be a very short anthology. But then I'm also I volunteered for a charity anthology that's actually gonna be really funny, run by Hugh Gregg. I don't know if you've interacted with him on Twitter. The Scottish book reviewer, I think. And then I'm organizing an anthology on grief and healing in SFF. So it's all science fiction and fantasy stories, mostly fantasy. I think maybe one SF story, or maybe a couple, but that's going to be a much bigger anthology. There's some much longer stories in that, and it's also about, I think we have 18 authors in it right now, and it's all stories that focus on grief and healing. So they're meant to be hopeful stories, but they're about grief, so there's some pretty sad stuff in it. It's pretty heart-wrenching, but the stories I've read so far have all been like knockout, and we've got some really great authors involved. It's going to be good. I'm really excited about that one, but it's also going to wind up being a hefty tome because I think we've got a couple novellas in there.
We've been talking for 20 minutes and you've had 20 different projects. No, not like it's incredible how much you're doing. Are you concerned? Are you concerned that next time you come on here, it's going to be too much to promote?
Luckily it's all spread out. So these things are all going to be, no, they are. They're launching.
If you spread out 365 projects, you still got one a day you got to do.
But these are all spread out over months. Not all of them are even necessarily happening in 2021, but or maybe some of them late 2020. Well, they're probably all happening this year, but they're spread out. And I finished the one book I'm releasing this year. So
May 7th.
Yeah, May 7th.
I gotta say, I'm a little disappointed that you weren't on the treadmill for this. I know.
I'm so sad. Our treadmill's broken.
What?
Yeah. It died, I think I had about 6 good weeks of using it, and then it conked. We bought it used for like $300. It was originally like a $1,200, $1,600 treadmill, but it was old. It was probably like 10 years old. And so we maybe even overpaid with our $300, but whatever. I think we got $300 worth of use out of it. Maybe, since gyms weren't a thing during like the worst part of the pandemic in the winter. So it was, and oh my gosh, I got so much use out of it. But yeah, it just, the speed sensor died, which we can get replaced, except it'll take like 3 months to get the part, and then we got to replace it anyway. So
we'll never forget you.
I know. Yeah, exactly. Sad. So yeah, I'm sorry that I'm not on the treadmill too, except I would not have done an interview on the treadmill because it's loud, but
it would have been fun though. It would have been chaotic, exactly what this show tries to encompass.
It'd be pretty sweet, but I loved that thing. I was so happy with it, and I'm so bummed that it's not useful anymore.
I was reading some vlog you were doing, and at some point you were like, I'm on mile 3, and then by the end of it you're like, I'm on mile 5. I'm like, Jesus Christ, how are we doing this?
I was, for blogging too, I would walk at like 3 or 4 miles an hour. And for normal writing, it was like 2 to 3 miles an hour.
It's like 20, 25 minute. That's like not slow.
Yeah, it's a treadmill, right? You're just going in a straight line. It's not.
Right.
And I'm really good at typing, and I'm very practiced at. My hands can just work independently. I don't need to see the screen. I look at the screen anyway, but I don't have to.
Right.
And it was, I don't know, it worked. It was also it was at a good height, so it was just like I just cranked it out, and I miss it. It was so good.
Are you gonna get a new iteration of this thing?
I might. Yeah, I might actually like shell out for a new one. Not like maybe just a walking treadmill that doesn't actually go fast enough to run on. Although I don't know, because there were times in winter when I really appreciated being able to go for a run in the basement, because it gets pretty cold here.
Right.
And there's some days
you'll go run in the snow, right?
I do often. But if it's like colder than -20, sometimes I don't. Celsius, which is about like -2 Fahrenheit. It's like
that's crazy.
-18 is 0, so it's cool. Yeah, that would be cold. But yeah. So I use the treadmill on the really cold days, or the days where I just couldn't be arsed, It's like, and then there's a whole season of when it, like, the snow melts and then freezes, and so everything's just icy, and so even though it's not too cold to run, it's just dangerous because you just can't, like, it's like a skating rink. And I guess I could invest in some yak tracks or something, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's what people do. I mean, and it's not really a New York problem. We had some snow, but it wasn't like crazy. I was still able to get out there. But yeah, you need to get a new treadmill. I don't like this.
I know, it's sad. I mean, the good news is it's getting warmer. Today I biked to pick up my daughter from school and took, the bike trailer and biked her back. And
What do you have, like one of those little cart things on the back?
yeah.
That is adorable.
It is adorable. And it's one of the fancy like covered ones, and she's got a 5-point harness and she wears her helmet and but and a nice wide wheelbase.
So she's being safe. I see what I see what you're trying to push out there. No one thought that you were going to be dangerous and reckless.
Then people don't know me very well, but but not with my kids' life, that's for sure. So yeah, but anyways, it was really nice. It's like I don't know, it's like 50 degrees out today, 55. It's nice. I switched to Fahrenheit that time.
Yeah, now I was thinking
Plus
Celsius.
13.
Ooh, man, what's
yeah,
happening?
that'd be really hot.
Global warming is really hitting us hard. Really hitting you guys hard up there.
Right. Suddenly it's the Sahara.
Is that where, like, you're an audiobook listener?
So no, not much.
All.
I mean, I do a little. No, sometimes I like, and actually on the treadmill I would for sure. But I wouldn't listen to one outside. I don't usually, like, if I'm running or biking outside, I don't put anything in my ears.
I always find that crazy. I can't deal with that, but to each their own.
I mean, it's like, yeah, I like to zen out, and I will not. I get distracted, so I will zone out. I'll start thinking of something, and I'll miss huge sections of an audiobook because my brain will be running off on an idea. So, but I know lots of people who love to listen to audiobooks while they run and stuff, and I'm just
me actually.
There you go.
But you are, this show 52 fancy books in 52 weeks, not a plug. But you crushed that. You crushed that number. You were at like what, 72 books last year?
I think something like that, 72, 74, something like that. Yeah, I read a few books last year. I've read 37 so far this year, I think.
Oh my God, you are a beast.
I have to say, this year in particular, I have been reading fluffy romance after fluffy romance, and boy, is it easy to just devour those in like a day. And so even though I've had a few chunks of time where I haven't been reading, I've been able to sort of make up for that by reading like 5 books in a week. And a few of those are novellas. So
okay. I mean, that does make a difference.
200 pages instead of 500 or whatever.
Right.
But But I also read a bunch of epic fantasy too. So I feel like it evens out in the end. Like I've got, occasionally I read the 1,000-page books, and then I also have the the shorter novellas. And I think overall the average length of novel is enough that each one of those should count.
Right. Though that's a question I'm sure you get asked when you tell people how many books you read a year. I get asked this all the time. Well, how long are they? But I mean, like, I don't know. Nothing is the same. Like,
and also, telling someone the page count is sort of irrelevant because
it's misleading.
It's totally misleading. Like, you can do so much with formatting. For example, this new paperback version of Blade's Edge is
conveniently right here.
Conveniently right here. And let me tell you the page count, it is like 360 something. Hang on. 367.
Virginia is flying through her book looking at her page count.
368. And then but the original print version of this is like 300. Like I basically added 70 pages through formatting. Just like I just made it a more readable text. Like the original, I think I've actually got it in here, but I'm probably not going to dig it out. But it's like, it's slightly smaller font, smaller spacing. Still totally industry standard, but on the small side of industry standard, and great for printing costs, but not great for readability for older readers or it just people
it makes
so yeah. So yeah, page count's a lie.
It is a lie. So yeah, I mean, I get that. I'm like, I don't know, man. However long a book is, like
this is as long as a book. Yeah. These are. Who cares?
That's why whenever I have authors on here, they're always like, it's this amount of words, which is just, if you're not in the writing world, is like, well, what the hell does that mean?
It's true, but it is the only accurate count of how long a book is.
Well, you're right.
But absolutely, if you're not writing books yourself, you have no idea what that means. But yeah, that's a big one, right? Like, so Blade's Edge is about 100,000 words. Traitor's Hope is about 97,000 words. And Cyril's Claw is 127,000 words right now, or almost 128.
Go.
So, like, and that is the difference between so like this is 390 or 380 something, and then 368. What did I even say? At any rate, Cyril's Claw is 100 pages longer than this one.
Okay.
Basically. Close to 100 pages longer than that. For when that's so, and it's 20,000 words longer, because this is actually slightly over 100,000. Anyway, but that is like, seriously, when we talk to each other, we always talk word count, author to author, because nothing else makes sense, because we all know that you can change the page number so easily. Like,
right.
And also it's the thing that we deal with constantly until it goes into production, and it's only then you find out how many pages that is in whatever format. But it's also like, this is a 6x9 book. You print out this exact same book in a 5.5 by 8.5, and it's going to be at least 50 pages longer. And you know, make it an 8x5, and it's going to be like another 70 pages longer. And anyway, so yeah.
This is turned educational. Thank you.
Sorry. I love formatting, so I was like, I nerd out.
I always feel like I'm on the inside when someone on here is like, "Oh, I have a 75,000 page book and a word," and I'm always like, I always have to pretend I'm like, "Yeah, no, I know exactly how long that is." I'm embarrassed to ask. You know, it's gone on too long.
It's fair, because it's not, you know, it's only ever page numbers when you get to them, and and everyone I talk to about it, they're like, "Well, how long is your book?" And I tell them the word count, and they're like, "That doesn't mean anything to me." I'm like, "Yeah, it'll be approximately this length," but you know, it's not.
Okay. So you did a roundup of all the books you read, and
yeah,
you had some awesome descriptive words, some great marketing for everybody. I wanted to read some of my favorites and get some feedback on them.
Okay.
The big thing and my big takeaway is you love a stabby lead female.
This is true. Yes.
Crows can be a selling point.
Yeah, they can.
Soft boys, which I wasn't really sure what that one was.
That's lack of toxic masculinity in male characters, basically.
Okay.
Men who cry, who are in touch with their emotions and are still, you know, capable humans, instead of being like, "Oh no, you're weak because you cried."
Well, calling them soft isn't great.
They're soft. There's nothing wrong with being soft. Cookies are soft, man, and cookies are delicious.
That is an excellent point. Talking badger people.
Yes.
Not selling point, but I'm in on it. And then possibly my favorite characters I want to have tea with.
Oh, did I say that? That's great. Good job, me. Yeah, characters I want to have tea with. This is hilarious because this was back in December, I think, and I don't remember much of it at all. But the Talking Badger people are T. Kingfisher's books, and they are delightful. Everyone should read those.
Well, would you have tea with one of the badgers?
Absolutely. They wouldn't want to have tea, probably. They would just sit there and be like, "Ugh, humans can't smell." But they would absolutely be fun to have share a beverage with. Actually, I think they do have tea. There's a scene in one of those books where the badgers are or at least around when humans are having tea. I can't remember if they had tea themselves.
We deserve our own deep dive into this. I just thought you have a great way with selling books to me. I saw Talking Badger people. I'm like, I'm in.
They're so good. I'm sorry. I love those. And it's one of my favorite. Basically, I've really embraced like everything quirky in fantasy that I've always that I loved as a kid, and then like thought I had to grow out of. And I'm like, no, that's bullshit. Talking Badger people rock. Why would I give that up? Exactly.
Never change.
Exactly.
So we mentioned it before about the drawings, and you know, my favorite was the cat dragon. Now,
original and best.
Why wouldn't you just say that was a cat dragon? Because you nailed that creature.
I know. But the problem was is that I started off trying to draw a wolf. I was like, okay, I'm gonna draw a wolf. And I told my daughter that.
We lost the wolf long.
Well, so far away from the wolf, right? But as soon as I think I drew the eyes and the nose. And as soon as I finished drawing the nose, I was like, this is not
cat dragon.
This is not gonna be a wolf. So I gave it a face and I was like, okay, I made a cat face. Okay, this is a cat something. But then I was like, this is already a funky looking cat. So I'm giving it a dragon body because
that's what it needs, obviously.
Clearly, yeah. So they became the Kragan, which my daughter came up with. She's like, if it's a cat dragon, it's a Kragan. So the Kragan. And
that's good.
Teal and pink. It was great. So the Kragan came into existence and I loved it. But as soon as I finished, I was like, man, can I actually draw a wolf though? Like if I try.
They're getting better.
I'm getting a lot better. I've seen huge improvement from the Kragan.
The Kragan sounds like the villain of, this is a callback to the first interview. It sounds like the villain of many stories of a hedgehog castle and hedgehog knight and dragons in armor.
That totally would work. That creature would absolutely go in that book, and is about the same level of drawing skill I had at the time. I really haven't improved, or I hadn't improved until I started doing that. Now I want to get up the owl that I did yesterday.
Okay.
Let's see if this, I don't know if you can do screen to screen. Will it show?
Oh my God. Yeah, no, I see it. That owl is good.
Thank you. It's an owl. It looks like an owl, which is a huge improvement over the wolf that turned into a Kragan. So I'm feeling pretty good about it. Yeah. So
that owl could turn into anything. Who knows?
Well, probably David Bowie if it was going to turn into anything. I don't know if it's Labyrinth or if that just sounded like a really weird reference. But yeah, so I feel very, very proud of my improvements. I've been drawing every day since Sunday, which was the day of the Kragan. And I drew like 5 more pictures on Sunday and got noticeably better with each one of them, which was crazy to me. And I was like, this practicing thing is great. And so
who would have thought you'd put some time and effort into something, you might get better at it.
Mind blown. Yeah, so it's been delightful to like teach myself how to draw again and I'm already way better than I ever was back when I was drawing a lot as a kid. So that's nice. But it's, and it's just fun to do because I'm not taking it anywhere. I'm not looking to monetize it. I'm just
like an art anthology is coming.
No, not from me anyway.
When we do book 3, you're gonna be like, yeah, I have 3 art projects and a gallery now.
I don't think that's on the list, but you never know. But no, I don't. I'm just in it for fun. It's nice to keep things fun and just do some things to have a good time and not make money off of them. I mean that.
I didn't know that you had some acting credits under your belt.
A couple, yeah, but nothing fancy.
But it's cool as shit.
Thanks.
I'm starting to think there's nothing you haven't done.
Oh, there's lots of things I haven't done.
We went over your wild life last time you were on the show, and
did we?
And now I'm thinking that like it's gotten crazier. Like you just doing more and more.
The last time we talked, like I did acting in school and stuff, and then I did a show. The show I was actually in, like as an adult, was only like it was a couple years ago. It was before our last interview, also. So that's But I did my own audiobook, in what month was that? Like October, and released it in January. And so there's an audiobook out for Blade's Edge now. So if you like audiobooks.
This is a masterclass of how to promote yourself, by the way. I am beyond impressed. I always tell everybody who comes on the show, just say it if you got it. And you are perfectly practiced at this.
I've been saving it up I've been interviewing other people for months now, and
Go check that out. They are awesome, by the way.
thanks. The Quaroncon interview series is really fun, and I love doing it, and I love letting other people talk all about their books and shout about them. But yeah, so I'm just excited to be like, oh, good, this time I get to show my books. So yes, there's Naughty Book After Blade's Edge. I'm hoping to start recording the Traitor's Hope audiobook soon, and then I'll record the Cyro's Claw one. Really, I might even jump and do Cyro's Claw before I do Traitor's Hope and release it, so it's like really close to the actual.
Right, I was thinking that as well. Like that,
and then go back and do Traitor's Hope, because there's not. Just to be clear to anyone watching or listening, that you don't have to read these books in order. Blade's Edge and Traitor's Hope are essentially a duology, and they are best enjoyed together. But Cyro's Claw is completely. It's a new arc entirely with new characters. It starts 7 years after the end of Traitor's Hope, and no knowledge of the rest of the world is necessary for it. So anyone can dive in right there.
That I saw that, and I was like, "Oh no!" But what about all my friends?
They make some cameos.
Oh, thank God! I thought you were about to be like, "They all died," and I was like, "Oh God!"
I am not that author. I can't. Even if I wanted to be that author, I can't be that author. I already have a really hard time killing anyone in my books. Even just secondary characters, I really struggle with it. As you've probably noticed if you've finished reading Traitor's Hope. And are we are we still on like the?
So actually, I mentioned it every episode for like months after that. After we talked with you originally, me and my ex co-host may or may not be in this apartment at this point.
I'm just sitting there listening.
Started including spoiler warnings because of what you were telling us. So that is a big you have made a major impact on this podcast.
Oh, no. I feel
like in a positive way.
Okay, but I didn't mean to like. It wasn't.
But
sorry.
You were right. Okay. It's okay if it's correct. So now we include spoiler warnings, and yes, it is still a spoiler podcast. So let's get to it. Because we got a new book coming out. So actually, none of this recap would really matter, but it is fun. Let's do it. Traitor's Hope. How many people has Mishi killed at this point? Because it's getting off the charts.
Oh my gosh. I never have kept a tally, because they're really in that first, like in Blade's Edge, she kills enough people as like, I don't know how many people she killed. And then in the second book, I mean, like there were swaths of people being mowed down. Debatable how many of them actually died and how many of them were just like.
Well, they don't have Taka, so they all die.
Unable to attack. Well, but they might have at the end, because battle didn't last that long, and then Taka was around.
Because they all died.
Yeah, it was hard. This is the problem with the sequels and stuff, right? Like you're trying to like up the ante. And I wasn't trying, but yeah, it was just like, how do I make these battles really intense? The other problem is like Mishi, she's really powerful and like
she is badass.
She's badass.
The definition of Stabby lead female.
She totally is, but also she has this firepower, right? That's like, how do I come up with a challenge that makes her in peril? How do I imperil her? She's a walking death machine. Like,
gotta put her in a pool.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I would make her fight in the ocean. So yeah, it was a challenge to do that, and I hope that I succeeded in creating some tension with some of those scenes.
Say between 200 to 500 people at this point. It's a big range.
A lot, yeah. It's a lot of people. I would, not all of them are dead. Some of them are just seriously wounded.
No, they're dead. Come on, let's not paint this positive picture that may or may not exist. Well, I guess I mean you would know. What did the other side think as they were fighting and everyone they stabbed came back? Like when Taka was in the healing tent and she was kind of head doctor in charge. Everybody who came in just ran right back onto the field. They'd be like, I stabbed this guy like an hour ago. What the fuck is going on?
I mean, well, what they thought was, fuck this, I'm changing sides, right? That's ultimately what happens. It's like
I loved that part. I was like, oh my God, that's great. Because I would immediately be like, yeah, this whole killing babies thing might be bad.
It's important to remember though, at that point, the people who are fighting like are not like rah rah baby killing. They're just like everything's changing, and the people like we used to be in power and now we're not. Why are like we don't want to not be in power? This sucks. You're gonna like because the new council is like making a major shift, and they're not just getting rid of the Roju. They're also shifting the balance of power away from
Right.
just Kisoshi, and also trying to bring up the merchant class and everybody and like make it a more egalitarian society, which is not a thing that I got into a ton because instead we have this just the ghost of the Roju thing. But the point is that this with this big power shift, the remainder of the Roju and the people who were allied with them and like were getting bribes from them, and like there's just it was such a corrupt system. The idea that it would just be like, oh great, we overthrew the main people in charge and everything's fine, was like, no, they would, there would be a lot of people who were opposed to that and be like, no, I want my land and stuff and my
This is
extra
what
power and my bribes and so I'm gonna fight back, and then but they would fight back with people underneath them, right? Like most like they'd be like, here, you're my set number of warriors,
yeah, right.
go fight for my land. And that was the thing that was like, eventually those dudes are just like, these other guys keep getting healed and coming back out, and like the village people are getting healed, and like
What
we just keep
the
getting mowed down.
maybe women should use magic.
Right. We're just like, I don't want to die. I'm hurt. I'm gonna go get healed by the other guys because they're healing people. You guys are just leaving us on the field to die.
I, and like in a more broader sense, and maybe like in a somewhat serious note, the failure of so many sequels, in my opinion, is the first book is always so exciting, and there's something, books that have like an overthrow of some
Right.
type of oppressive government. And then there's nothing after that. In the sequel, you're like, well, everything worked out great. Now we have to come up with some alternate quest or something. And your book doesn't do that at all. It shows like, yeah, okay, so the power is toppled, but that doesn't mean like it's over. People don't just, everybody doesn't just quit the second they lose.
Right. And that was part of what I was trying to show with that, because there was some feedback I got from the initial epilogue was like, well, that was smooth and easy, and that was never the point. Like the point was just like, no, it's 2 weeks out, and like yeah, like there's a power shift happening, it's moving
Right.
forward. But it was never supposed to be like and done. But
Go team.
yeah, yeah, like good job everybody.
We did it.
But the more I thought about it, the more I was like, because I just didn't want to, like, I could have written out a much longer epilogue that addressed some of the stuff that was happening, but then it's like, where would I leave it, right? Like, because no, it was obviously going to wind up being a more drawn out thing. And so as soon as I started thinking about it, I was like, okay, well, that's probably a whole other book then.
Right. Yeah. Well,
And the other thing I wanted to deal with was Mishi's mental health, because as you pointed out, she kills a lot of people in the first book and she kills even more people in the second book. But like the idea of someone who's supposed to be a good person killing that many people and feeling fine with it has always bothered me in fantasy books, and then even in just like in military whatever, like most fiction you read, if the person's a good guy and they kill a whole bunch of people, they're like, it's cool because they're all bad people.
Right.
Really?
This isn't even like Sniper from a mile away. This is like up close and personal killing. Bloody, brutal, scorching people on fire. Like a lot of very graphic ways to die. So of course that has to take a toll on you. And another great thing that's addressed, like that there'd be no trauma and everything's happy-go-lucky and you're going to be able to go back to the school and we're going to forget that this huge father figure just died here and we're going to run the school. Everything's great.
It's all going to be fine. Yeah. And I hinted at that pretty heavily at the end of Blade's Edge, but I did not expressly delve into it. And that was the thing I really wanted to do too. So that was another reason for Traitor's Hope to come around. And then the delightful like bonus of that was getting to do a redemption arc for one of the characters from book one, and also write a really like slow burn romance. So that was really fun too.
Slow burn, definitely.
So slow. Sorry, I just dropped him. Yeah.
Jenny's
really,
gone. She ducked out of the interview. It's going terribly.
I dropped a piece of paper, and you'd think I could have just left it, but I was worried I was going to step on it and make a bunch of crinkling noises, so I picked it up.
That's all right. Does anyone have a bigger glow up than Katagi? He goes from borderline incel neckbeard to like the most progressive dude alive.
I loved doing that with him just on principle. Like
Men, take note. That's how it's done.
It was so fun to do that with him, because the trope that I hate is the friend who gets jilted and then turns into a mopey bastard, right? And like, I'm so entitled, you need to love me because I love you. And then that's either like winds up being like, oh yeah, you're right, you are so nice and you do love me, so I should love you, which
Hashtag nice guys, right? Isn't that one?
No, it's not that. It's just that, like, yeah, like it, but it's the nice guy. Like,
right.
You're actually a nice guy. You just want that person to be happy. If you're like, if you're a creepy nice guy, you're like, you owe me your love. Yeah, and that's not the. So anyway, I really loved like starting with that and then being like, ha! Then he gets some sense knocked into him by his female companions, and behold,
growth.
Yeah. Well, he is super young, right? Like he's also 17 or 18. I think he's older. He's a year older than Mishi. So he's like 18 when he, develops his giant crush on Mishi and thinks he's fallen in love, and maybe has. First love, whatever, but he, like he's 18. So yeah, he's a dipshit about it at the beginning, and then he, actually experiences some growth when he spends some time thinking about it.
It's crazy how that could happen if you're willing to listen to people. I mean, I know incels views count the same for me, so like, hey, but at the same time, like, take note. What's an all rabbit diet do to you?
That's a great question. It's high protein.
Because they're in peak physical condition.
It is a lot. It's a lot of protein, a little bit of fat if you find some very, well-fed rabbits in the woods.
Right.
We're talking fairly mild winters, so maybe these could be plump little rabbits. Yeah, and supplemented with some berries and stuff. It's a little, probably boring is one thing.
Well, yeah, that, but does it get you jacked? Because then I'm all in.
That's a good question. You have to eat a lot of rabbit to get that many grams of protein. It's like 4 rabbits a day to get the right amount to bulk up. So I didn't put that much thought into like how muscular people be, but everybody, like, I don't think anybody in my books is like walking around, like stacked. They're all just like
I want someone who just comes in all stacked, like, I only eat rabbit. Rabbit and mochi.
Well, but the mochi would, yeah. I don't know. I have not yet written anybody that's just like all muscle in my books. Kuma Sensei was stocky and like broad, but not,
We had a visitor in the back over there. Do they
got
got something to promote? They can hop on too. I'm interviewing anybody who comes on the screen.
My husband's a musician, so yeah, you can give
great. When will the Sanzoku just be like, I'm tired of getting killed by this girl? Like, maybe we should be pro-female here.
That one is weird, right? Like, the idea. They do give up eventually.
They're getting worked, Virginia. Like,
they're also getting paid really well. The Roju had some money left over, and they are shelling it out big time.
Okay, reasonable. I've got a novella idea for you. Can I pitch it?
You can pitch it. I'm not gonna.
This has become a big feature of my author interviews with middling success, if I'm being kind to myself.
I'm like not like I'm not like short ideas or anything. So.
No. Well, that's obvious.
But go ahead. What do you got?
All right. The book's called Mud Rats, and it's about Misu and Sao Chi, and they're just two crazy Kiso kids who just can't stay clean. And one day they just go into the wrong mud puddle, and they can't get the mud off of them, and they've got to take a traveling journey to go to the fountain of cleanliness, and so that they can finally get the mud off of them.
Amazing. It sounds like a fantastic middle grade adventure story. I have a plan for writing a book with those two.
Mud Rats. I think I just gave it to you.
No, it was actually, I was going to bump them up to being teenagers, and it would be a story very much about, they were going to fight some classism of love. I was going to bump them up to being like 15. It was going to be like 10 years after. So it still hasn't happened yet. Like I've written Cyro's Claw now. So actually the book that I was like, if I do write their story again, a lot of it will be different because there's a lot of stuff that happens. I can't give spoilers for Cyro's Claw, but there are things that happen in Cyro's Claw that will mean the plot that I was thinking of for them can still happen, but will be vastly different in the way it plays out.
Start seeing 4 pairs of eyes are peeking out of a mud puddle.
They're back. Just like, it's all about these kids in the mud. Yeah, look, they like mud, all right?
I love it. Listen, it worked. If it wasn't an effective strategy, they'd be dead.
Exactly. I don't know. I mean, I was like, I wrote them before I had my own kid. And I was like, what would 5-year-olds even do to save their own lives from like this insane threat? Like they're not going to be like killing people and running away. They're just going to be like, hide. How do you hide? And I was like, okay, well, if one of them is a water Kiso and the other one's an earth Kiso, then like mud. Both things together. But yeah.
Is Inari the sneaky hero of the whole story?
It's an interesting question. Is he? Tell me, what do you think?
My man had some twists and turns, and every time I was like, what?
It's yeah. He's got some serious glue in the fabric of that duology. He ties a few things together.
He's the straw that stirs the drink.
It's funny because I originally, in the first draft of the second book, I had 2 different characters covering the various things that Inari does, and it was like I was basically at the end of the first draft when I was like, oh no, those 2 people are the same person. That makes way more sense. So yeah, so that happened, and was a huge improvement. And yeah, and so so he ties a lot together, and interestingly, he's one of the few characters, not one of the few characters. We don't see a ton of any of the Blade's Edge or Traitor's Hope characters in the new book. We hear references to a few of them, and then there's some cameos at the end. But but yeah, we don't get a lot of any of those.
I think he's the puppet master behind this whole thing.
He's certainly, yeah. Like, I mean, I think I left enough of it open to reader interpretation that I don't want to say like, oh yeah, but he totally made a lot of stuff happen, and that is the canon in my head, is that Inari is sort of bumblingly, accidentally in his early days when he was still like, trying to do good.
Yeah, morals might be an okay thing to abide by sometimes.
Yeah, but as an assassin, it's kind of a risk, right? Like it's not a luxury you really get to have, and which was the lesson he sort of learned the hard way. And then
the lesson his niece learned the hard way.
Yeah, she learned it.
Shirking to the chest.
Extra hard way, yeah, I know. Oh, that was so hard. That was so hard to write. Even knowing how it ended, it was still hard to write.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did she know she was?
I did. Well, though, actually, to be fair, the first time I wrote it, I wasn't sure if she was gonna live. I was like, I don't know, is she alive or not? Is she dying? And I'm like crying. I'm like, oh, I think I just killed. I just killed Kazuko. And then I kept writing, and I was like, nope, she lived.
Let's go! She's back!
She's back.
Does anything get the juices flowing for a good makeout session? Like the kids that you were supposed to be watching getting kidnapped?
I am trying to think of this reference because I haven't read Trader's Hope since.
It's hot, let me tell you.
Why are they making out after that? I don't know.
Mishi, the kids are gone. Ooh.
Wait, does that actually happen? I'm so confused.
It's loosely the string of events.
Loosely, okay. But like
a lot of things get moved around to fit my jokes. I don't
it's
know.
Okay, all right. Because I'm like, wait, did I like legit go into like, oh, the children have been stolen. Hey, want to make out? It was like later that.
Well, there's a whole like, mental collapse, and then also it was pretty cold.
Yes. Well, the cold is always the impetus. It's like, oh no, we're in the forest and it's very cold. We must cuddle. And if cuddling leads to other things, people got to stay warm. So.
like Mishi feeling her first bulge. That was.
I have to say, I had my editor and I talked about that scene because she was like, I don't know. I mean, actually, no. Was she okay with it? I was worried. I was like, is it too? But like in YA, I feel like my books are quite tame by comparison. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't know what's too like when I was a teenager, I certainly, I knew.
Where's this going?
I knew plenty of those things. Well, I'm just saying, like when I was Mishi's age, yeah. So there's like balancing realism with
right. No, I agree. I just
and it's just like yes, but that was.
Yeah, I'm not doing my job if I don't point this stuff out.
Well,
I think my last question is, what does looking at someone as if they suggested they have sex with dolphins look like? Like, what is that facial? Do you have that? Exactly that. I think that's all I got. I think that's a good note to end on.
And we're done.
Let's throw our promos out. Where can people find you, Virginia?
Check out virginiamcclain.com, also virginiamcclain.ca. If you want to pre-order Cyro's Claw and get free swag, I have a character art that's really cool, and you can get it mailed to your door in the form of postcards and stickers and a bookmark. Then go to virginiamcclain.ca/SC pre-order, and there you can pre-order Cyro's Claw, and then also put in your information so that I can send you an envelope full of cool swag. So be sure to do that.
Fantastic. Everybody should be doing that and should have done it already.
Yeah, do it already. And then, of course, I'm just going to fan these out again because.
Right. Look out for her 27 anthologies. Her big con coming next year. Her art gallery opening up in late October.
Sculpture only.
I'm going into sculptures now. I like this.
No,
Sculptures of mud. That's a callback. All right. Thank you so much for taking the time out. May 7th. I'm pretty sure this podcast will be released after that. So,
so then just go straight to buying the book. It's no longer
so that might be better. That might be burying the lead. That's on me. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Go
Thanks so much
follow
for
her on
me.
Twitter. All this great stuff, and thank you for returning.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Virginia's awesome. Her books are awesome. Her dog is awesome. Her family's awesome. What more can I say about her? This is the second time that I've gotten a chance to speak with her one-on-one. Obviously Twitter interactions be beside. And we have more and more fun every time we speak. I can't wait for her to continue putting out stuff. She does Quaroncon, which is an amazing outlet for all kinds of authors at all stages of their career to get some good exposure. I hope that we talked, I think, maybe during the interview, but certainly off air, about me running a panel next year. And you can only imagine the chaos that's going to ensue when I finally get my chance at running panels. I guess that's the next stage of my life. It's going from interviewing authors that nobody listens to running panels that no one's going to listen to. Is the problem me? Who knows? Let's do these closing statements because I want to tell you what's coming up on the podcast because I'm super excited about it. And then let's get the fuck out of here. Books on the horizon. Next week is looking like it's going to be Dragon Mage by M.L. Spencer. And let me tell you, it is the longest book we've ever featured on the podcast. I finished it yesterday, and it's worth every page. Then after that, The Path of Flames by Spiffbo 3 finals, Spiffbo 2 finals, I don't know. Phil Tucker, who has been one of the most recommended authors by other people that I've had on the show. And then after that is the return of Benedict Patrick, aka Patrick Benedict. And no longer do I have a co-host to tell me that I've been telling it wrong, so I'm keeping it in to talk about To Live and Die as a Tiny Wild Girl. So everybody keep on reading, or something like that. Peace.